So the prompt is, how would you measure success for events?
Yes, and there was a second one as well, that if events goes up
Yeah,
and news feeds goes down, what do you
yeah.
do?
Okay.
Yeah, so the broad structure in which I'm thinking of addressing this is like goal of the product, actions that someone would take, and then the actual metrics. So yeah, just some lightweight clarifying questions up front, whether it is for the creator attendee, virtual or physical, any particular geography.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't ask these clarifying questions because
Okay.
the prompt is, I'm the PM for events.
Okay.
I'm not I'm not the PM for event creator. I'm not the PM for event attendees. I'm the PM for all of events. Therefore, I would care about all these things. And I need my success metrics to measure all these things. But
Okay.
then so if I have to clarify, I would say, okay, I'm just clarifying. I'm the PM for all of events and not just a
Mhm.
specific portion. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then goal of the product, just talk very quickly about Facebook's mission and then why the events product matters, right? So main use cases, Facebook main use cases for people to remain connected with their friends and other members, and people want to experience moments and do activities with people, with other people that they know or are yet to know. So how events fosters that sense of community, and then basically, so and then linking events to that, right? So point 2b is what people like to do in real life, and then linking that how events enables the need that people have, right? And then quickly talking about the events product offering today. How is it used? I didn't dive too deep into what events does in terms of like location, timing and all of that, but I'm hoping that I can keep it high level at this stage.
So at this stage, are you able to hypothesize a North Star at this stage?
That's a good question. I think yes, I can, but should it come at this stage? I think is my
I
question, or
would,
should it come more? Okay,
because I already have enough information.
okay,
And I would just say, okay, this is a hypothesis, but of course, I'm going to think more deeply about this product and I might come back and revisit later. But here's my hypothesis. And the reason why you would do this is because this makes you sound more senior. It's a tops down approach versus a bottoms up. A bottoms up approach, which is very common, is okay, now I have 20 metrics on the page. I'm going to pick one to be the North Star. That makes you sound more junior.
got it. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I already have the North Star, so maybe we can talk about that. But I think for me, then I think the feedback is more of like where I talk about North Star. I
Mhm.
think is more of like in the beginning itself. So maybe we
After
can,
we yeah, after we think through the product and the value
right.
it brings. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so maybe then let's just see if like the North Star as such makes sense, just to
Okay.
complete the train of thought.
Mm.
So I've written that down in the actual metrics section. So the way I think about North Star is always something that would bring value to the end user. So in this case, we want events exist so that people can attend them. So the North Star for me would be number of events attended, and then I can attach some sort of a time dimension to it, which is last 30 days or x number of days.
This is a volume metric.
Hmm. Got it.
We
So I
want
can
a
attach a
participation rate.
participation metric to it. Okay.
Yes.
Should there be
And
two North Stars though? Like,
yeah. So
okay.
I would.
Okay.
And if I had to pick one though,
Hmm.
I would always lean into the participation rate.
Got it.
If I'm going to talk about the events product and success, it's not necessarily I want to have a lot of events. It's more about I want people to attend events and feel closer to one another. right? I'm just
Mhm.
using plain English. Number of events, it's not as impactful as just the number of people attending events, because events are valuable. Events help them connect with a cause. Events help them with community building. So if I'm just
Mhm.
like thinking about it in plain English, number of people attending events feels closer to the success than I want to have a bunch of events. That's how it feels to me. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay.
So in this case, then participation metric would be number of people responding to events or number of people attending events, right?
Attending. Attending events. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. All right.
Okay. Then going to the next step, which is talking about the user journey. So I laid out both the creator, which is figuring out what you want to have the event be about, create it, publish it, invite, and then who's attending, and then conduction of the event, and then attendee side, which is, yeah, not going to go through all of it, but I can basically, this is how I plan to just quickly talk about the attendee side.
So I know it says optional here, but I want to really emphasize on what happens after the event. It's kind of like the same thing as what happens after you react to something. That after effect is what the platform really wants ultimately. After
Hmm.
the event, we feel closer to our community. After the event, we made new friends. After event, we reminisce and we're sharing photos. After the event, we're looking forward to the next event.
Hmm.
After the event, now I want to create my own event. Right? It's this aftermath that really brings out the magic of the product. Most
The
people
loop.
just, hmm?
Saying the loop, basically.
Yes, this is the feedback loop that we want. The magic is in the loop. The
Hmm.
beginning is just more of like mechanical. Yes, I'm going to
Hmm.
create an event, I'm going to publish it, I'm going to RSVP. That is mechanical. But what Facebook wants is that connection between people, which comes afterwards. So I would not make E optional. I would really talk about the loop and the magic
Mm.
that occurs when Facebook can facilitate that initial connection. The initial connection is the event. The initial connection is the reaction. The initial
Mm.
reaction is the comment. But then the real connection, the magic comes after. And
Right. Right.
that's what makes Facebook successful.
Okay.
Okay. So lean into this. Now you really understand the event product and how it helps Facebook. Great. Now we can set metrics.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, we already talked about North Star. So here, I think we talk about key metrics. Again, I haven't broken them down by creator and attendee. So, but I can position them both from both perspective. Like
Mhm.
one thing that can help track both sides. So I've in the broad category I've broken down is like kind of the similar to the pirate framework, which is from the adoption side, events created, attendees per event, is that growing, and then the stickiness of it, right? Per user, are users attending more events as a result of them attending one event? And then some sort of indication around like, are people creating the right events? Like, are creators creating right events? Are inviting the right set of people? Where so number of events where X% of the audience attended, right? And then discussions and then referrals. Basically, are guests inviting other people to the event? And this is would be more for like open events. Any
Okay.
thoughts there before we go to Cartrail?
Events created. Yeah, so I would just add the participation rate to these. These are volume.
Would the attendees per event also
Oh,
be
here.
volume?
No, no, this is participate. Wait, hold on.
Mhm.
Events attended. Are you talking about 2A?
Well, I was talking about initially. I was talking about the second one in under one, which is
Oh.
attendees per event.
Oh, okay,
So I
okay,
think.
okay. Yeah, this is
Oh,
participation rate. Yes. Yeah, I would just organize it a little bit better. So it's always participation rate and volume, like that.
mm, okay,
It just adds to the structure of your answer.
right. Okay.
Okay, and a guardrail.
Yeah. So for guardrail, I have events missed because that's a real thing that can happen with events, and I can like add my personal perspective as well. That sometimes I register for something but then missed going, and then talk about like how I would track that and some sort of sentiment analysis, how they felt about the event, whether through comments or in this case I had like if there is a way for currently for us to for people to rate the quality of the event on a 5-star rating, then we can measure that.
I thought of another key metric that's actually pretty important. And if you're going to organize this, then there's a step 0, which is awareness. Which is why I like to organize by user journey instead versus
Hmm.
this way of organization. If you were to use a user journey to organize your metrics, then the first step of the journey is you're going to come and browse for events. That's the awareness piece, and that's like the number of impressions, number of people interested in seeing what's going on this weekend. That is top of funnel for you, and then you go into the funnel a little bit more.
Got it. So like supply, like number of events
Yeah,
available at any
yeah,
point in time. Okay.
yeah, yeah. But then if you use a user journey, it would just help you identify the entire funnel.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
guardrail. Yeah.
What I
Okay.
don't have here is the impact of events on some like the cannibalization piece.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that
Correct.
that I don't have in here, so I can add that in. Okay. And then for the trade-offs, if something is going up and other is going down. So again, asking some clarifying questions. So I listed mine, but let me know if like it doesn't make sense to ask. I'm assuming in this case it probably makes more sense to ask clarifying questions for like some sort of troubleshooting or decision making, right?
Sorry, I missed one more thing in the key
Oh,
metrics.
okay.
We forgot to do the secondary metric, secondary metric, which is the loop.
Mm,
This is the magic. So, what happens when people have a good experience in one event? Basically, this would be the creation side because the event was so successful. People want to create more events. So, more
and
events being created and more creators.
got it. That can definitely be one. Can we also say that, number of people who attended an event and then continue attending more events
Mhm.
because that is also the
Yeah,
goal of the product, right?
correct, correct, correct. So there will be retention on the attendee side and then more creation on the
Okay.
creation side. Yeah.
Got it. So for the retention on the attendees side, so that's what I was kind of trying to go with like 2A under like events attended
Mm-hmm.
per user per like in the last 60 days.
Sure.
So that's what I was going for.
Yeah.
Probably that was not clear. Then yeah, that's maybe a find better way to phrase it.
Yeah. Then it's just a organization, I would say,
Okay.
which is another reason why the journey I think is very effective because you go through the journey and then you would get to the loop.
Right.
Yeah. More naturally.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
the loop is probably the biggest learning for me out of in here. Like always talk about the loop. Just don't
Mm-hmm.
talk about like the first pass, but what happens after
Mm-hmm.
the first pass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Okay, so now let's do the trade-off. Event is going up. Newsfeed is going down. Yes. So you want to ask what is going down? Like what on
Right.
newsfeed is going down?
Yeah. And then some, other questions around like, are we seeing this for any particular time
Yeah.
period? Yeah.
So your questions here is to debug that this actually happened. So
Hmm.
then to clarify this, I would say Would you like me to debug and figure out if this drop actually happened? Or are you saying we've done all the analysis, the drop happened?
Mm,
Because when you're doing this, we're going down the path of a debugging question. And this is going to eat into your time of doing the actual trade-off. So I
got
would
it.
just make that clear. Do you want me to debug this or you want me to do the actual trade-off, assuming the debugging already happened?
Got it. Yeah, that's a good way
Okay.
of putting it, and
Yeah.
that way I can just have one sentence and save
Yeah.
maybe 30 seconds
Yeah. Yeah.
or more. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Hypothesis.
Yeah, just a new feature is launched, so people are excited about it, or just the way it is designed. So design could be a design change, and again, and then the last is any bug in newsfeed that may
Uh,
be coincidentally happening around the same time.
so first, this is mm, A, B, and C. These are answers you could apply to any generic question, which
Mm,
is which is not going to highlight your critical thinking skills because now
mm,
you're asking very generic questions. What you want to say here is, okay, let me really think about this. Newsfeed going down, but events is going up. That actually makes sense because when people are attending events, they're not on newsfeed. And it also makes sense that there is going to be some cannibalization. We say that we don't want to cannibalize, but is that really realistic? No, because we are fighting for people's time and attention span when they open Facebook. The more features you add, the more likely our users will be distracted because there's only a limited time a day. Let's say on average, and I don't know what the right number is, on average, the user spends 5 minutes in the Facebook app. Within this 5 minutes, all the features on Facebook are fighting for attention. There's bound to
mm.
be cannibalization. It's bound to happen. That's
Right.
just universal law. That's just what I think. Okay, it's bound to happen. Cannibalization is very natural. In this case, it actually makes a lot of sense because people are attending events. Of course, they're not using newsfeed. But now I want to characterize short term. Yes, it makes sense. But what about long term? We talked about this loop, this magical loop. I would actually expect that people would be on newsfeed more as a result of events longer term. So I would
Mm.
look into that. I would ask the data scientist, show me the short term data and the long term data. If the magic loop is not happening, that people are not using Facebook as a result of events, then by definition, this events product does not help Facebook's mission. Anything that we add to the Facebook app has to ladder up to Facebook's mission, which is measured in overall time spent and overall DAU of the overall platform. If there is a feature that does not ladder up to DAU, does not ladder up to time spent, it's not a good feature for Facebook.
Got it. I think that makes sense, but one clarifying question. So if someone is attending events, by definition, they are using the app because right now events lives within the app. So did you
Mhm.
actually mean like newsfeed? Because these are separate products, right?
Well, I mean, when people are actually at the event,
Hmm.
I hypothesize they're not using newsfeed.
Okay.
So during the event, like Burning Man, I
Mm-hmm.
hypothesize people are not on newsfeed. They're that's a hypothesis.
Right.
So if there is a drop in newsfeed and it's short term, I actually expect that, and that's okay. But I want to see newsfeed usage go up. And I know what you meant. So I'm saying people using Facebook as a result of events. Using Facebook means they're gonna open the Facebook app, they're gonna be on newsfeed.
Hmm.
So using Facebook to me is very similar to using newsfeed, just because of the placement of newsfeed.
Right. That
And
is the
let's
first thing
say,
that you.
yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
well, a lot of the loop that happens actually is a result of notification. So let's say I am reminiscing, I had such a good time at the event. Now I want to share pictures. I might be posting to the events page, or I might just be posting on my personal profile. Either
Hmm.
way, even though I'm not posting on events, it still means that the event is successful, because the event is successful that contributed to people posting pictures. Even when they're not posting on the events product, they're posting on the Facebook platform. That is still a win for the events
Hmm.
product because of that magic loop, right? That's the magic of the product. You're just contributing more into the ecosystem. Does it kind of beyond the surface, which surface you use. And when people post pictures, their friends get notified, and then friends get, and you're like friending other people that you met at the event. More people get notified. So people do enter Facebook through notification. It might not land them directly on newsfeed,
Hmm.
but they're probably gonna go on newsfeed after they look at some photos.
Right, right. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, my takeaway here is that instead of talking about why this could have happened, kind of acknowledge
Mhm.
that this is natural, right?
Yeah.
Like that is one difference, and like talk about it from that perspective. And
Yeah.
so not as much of like debugging of like why it could happen. Okay.
Unless they want you to debug this.
Unless they want
Right.
you to debug.
Right.
Okay,
So this
okay.
could be a debugging question, but we want to make
Right.
sure what question this
Okay.
is. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we can move on to the next. But yeah, feel free to leave any notes on this one on the hypothesis. I think I got the gist of it, which is talk like acknowledge why it is could be happening, and then the short term versus the long term, like
Yeah.
that piece that you talked about.
Short term job versus long term job.
Okay. Then for the decision making, kind of lay out the deciding criteria that how I will assess it, right? What are the company's overall goals and mission, priorities, how company sees its product, and then what are the current market conditions. Do these three make sense? Anything else we should be having in there?
Well, the deciding criteria is evaluated by the ecosystem metric that we came up with.
Hmm. Okay.
Because let's say Marketplace launched, but it didn't really impact newsfeed as much as events. So if we were to decide on a company level which product is more impactful, we would be looking at the ecosystem metrics to decide. The ecosystem metric here is, are people using Facebook more as a result of events? And that's the same. So basically, the ecosystem metric is always the same, regardless of product. Are people
Hmm.
using Facebook more because of reactions? Are people using Facebook more because of Marketplace? Are people using Facebook more because of Facebook Watch? So the ecosystem metric is always the same, regardless of
Oh.
Facebook product. It's always Facebook DAU and Facebook time spent overall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Across multiple surfaces like Notif, Profile, Messenger, WhatsApp, etc. Within the
Right.
family of apps. Yeah.
Okay. So then just talk about, yeah, I mean, I think I can kind of pivot the company's overall goals and mission from,
Yes.
instead of saying that, to like the talk more about like how it affects the ecosystem, right? And
Yes.
the ecosystem metrics. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. But does it still make sense to just to like talk, basically voice over like how the company sees its products, right? Like the company's strategic priorities, and how the market is. Do those things also make sense to mention, or as
You
have as
could,
part of the? Mhm.
yeah, you could mention it, but I would lead with I'm going to look at the ecosystem metrics.
Got it.
Yeah. And then if there's a decision that I have to make, I would run a test and see how it impacts the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So let me add that. How do I decide? Why I will run a test. At ecosystem metrics.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I think that makes sense, and then we can talk about like so. Then the way I thought about it is, can talk about like what are the options, right? That we,
Mm-hmm.
as part of the decision making, that we let events stay, people find a new way to enjoy, the Facebook product,
Mm-hmm.
and there are more things that we can do down the road, or rolling it back partially or completely, and then talking about the two aspects of like what that would achieve, which is maybe reduce the impact, the negative impact to the news feed, and then the negative aspect could be that it's not good optics for the company to like immediately remove. So which is again ladders up to the main
Yeah.
decision that it's not like, let's not remove it right away, and then I think that's the typical like guidance I think around most of this, unless otherwise, like, which is the decision, which is let it stay, understand what is causing, and figure out a way to bring news feedback, right? Because that is the main problem. It's not events doing well, or it's news
Mm-hmm.
feed that is going down that is the problem. And
Yes.
then talk about like, if you continue to see events cannibalize newsfeed, then like really take a hard look, or like over the long term, like then take a hard look at like from a company strategy perspective, and what do we want the product, like Facebook as a product, to represent. And then if we continue to see like newsfeed going down, then maybe, and events is successful, right, just maybe spin off events as a separate app. I don't know if this is a a risky proposition to mention, but the word what I'm trying to get to is here that if events is doing well, then there
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be a reason that we would like you know take it down just to make sure that newsfeed is okay. So find alternatives. I don't know if.
I actually would not frame it that way because
Mm,
even if it's a standalone app, it still has to contribute to the family of apps.
right.
And this is ecosystem thinking versus siloed thinking. Facebook would not keep anything if it doesn't help its ecosystem because they could just invest in another thing that helps the ecosystem.
Got it. So from that perspective, then, if Facebook cares about the ecosystem of the apps, and
Mm-hmm.
that people are spending time or engaging with
Mm-hmm.
at least one or more of the apps,
Mm-hmm.
then having events kind of be its own thing still ladders up to that, right? It just reduces the impact on newsfeed, but as Facebook as a product still gets engagement on the ecosystem, right?
Well, if the engagement is only healthy within events and
Hmm.
it doesn't contribute to anything else outside of events, then I would argue this product does not add value to the ecosystem.
Hmm.
Then there is a design flaw in the product. So there's interconnectedness in between the apps, right? Like Instagram is integrated with Facebook,
Hmm.
Messenger is integrated. There's interconnectedness. So for a standalone product that does not add any value to the ecosystem, that does
Hmm.
not make sense for
Hmm.
Facebook, the company. It has to add value to ecosystem. So then I would say instead of killing events, it's more about because there's a little bit of a product market fit just within events, I would say I would think about how to benefit the ecosystem. Like how do I integrate events better with Facebook? Maybe I put a messenger
Okay.
link to talk to the event creator,
Mm,
right? That's an example of adding more integration to benefit the ecosystem. So, what this question really tests is, are you an ecosystem thinker
mm.
and not just, okay, I only care about events and that's all I care about? I need to care about
Or
the,
just solving the problem at hand. Basically, are you thinking big? Like,
yeah.
to your point. Okay, got it.
Okay,
Yeah,
if you have
thank you. This was
questions,
very
ping
helpful.
me. Great.
Hmm.
Okay. See you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Bye.
Great. Bye.